I have done that. Thank you for asking. So there are other chores that remain to be done.
Like chopping some trees and stuff like that?
Well, my property, I did not have anything. In fact, I really wasn't aware that anything had happened. We were in a little get-together on Friday night, and it came out, and it was raining about 9 o'clock. But then prior to that, without our knowing it, there had been a rather severe windstorm through here.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Josh Roberts with us today. Josh, how are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Fine, rested, ready to go?
I am.
After your big weekend?
Yeah.
Well, it's a little more low-key than Tremendicon.
Yeah, but, I love this.
Yeah. Well, we love
being
having you here. And Alex Scott not with us today. He's up in Columbia. But I guess let's start out by talking about Wimbledon, the men's final going on right now. And Ned and I, when I've been watching this all morning as I've been here, and I commented to you because you came in about the third set, and I said it looked like Djokovic was just going to run him off the court because he took the first set 6-1. But time has caught up, but it seems like the old man still has stuff left in the gas tank right now.
That's the amazing thing about a guy like Djokovic, who is a future Hall of Famer and one of the greatest tennis players ever to grace the planet. He has that little extra oomph, so to speak, in his soul. He's 36 years old. He probably does not have the physical skills as a Carlos Alcaraz, who is the number one player in the world. He's only 23. And he has I don't know whether it's the King of Spain. Yes, I think it is. The King of Spain is sitting in the front row watching this.
Oh, wow.
This has to be a tremendous thrill for him. But I'll tell you, he's up against Djokovic, but there you see that Alcaraz can still play. He is a fine player. This is going to come down to a fifth set, and whoever has the strength to get it done. Well, I think that, in all honesty, I think that Djokovic is pretty much out of gas now, but you can never find the substitute for that mental strength that an individual, certainly a proven champion, has.
It's interesting when you watch these. I always look at the lines when there's a big tennis match. I always look at the line, and this one's going just like one of those. First one, Djokovic 6-1. Looked like he's running off the court. Second set, 7-6. It goes to Alcaraz. Third set, Alcaraz runs Djokovic off the court, 6-1. And now in the fourth set, it's 5-3, Djokovic up. So it's Ned and I were talking. I said, it's amazing how much two things mean in this particular sport. One is conditioning.
Oh, yeah.
You have to be there for the long haul. This has been going on now for over 3 hours. They had a game that took nearly 30 minutes. And just making the adjustments from set to set to be able to compete in one of these.
It's the mental strength, Joe.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And anybody who's ever played the game, all the coaches in the world will tell you, you mentally have to be prepared because each match that you have requires a different mental outlook. And when you aren't strong enough mentally to do it, you're not going to win. These guys, that's the difference between the champions and the also-rans. I saw a guy once at Missouri State when they had men's tennis, and he was not from this country. I think he was from Czechoslovakia, as a matter of fact. This guy could serve lights out. I mean, it was easily 125, 130 mile an hour serves, and a great player. And he tried it on the satellite tour and didn't do a thing. Didn't do squat on that satellite tour. And I asked his coach, who is a guy you guys probably know, just say his name. I said, why doesn't was it Joseph? I think it was. Why doesn't he win? To Ned, he does not have the mental approach. Physically, oh gosh, yes, he can stand up with all of them. Many of them physically have the same capabilities. But when you do not have the right mental approach, you're not going to win. And that really says it all, not just for tennis, but for anything at all that you undertake, be it professional, be it your lifestyle, whatever.
Djokovic just took the fourth set, 6-3, so it will go to a fifth and deciding set. So it's good dramatic television, good dramatic sports when you see these things go 5 sets. And like I said, and just like you said, not only the mental strength to win a 3-4 hour match, but the fact that you're going to have to do another one 2 days later.
Oh, yeah.
In these tournaments, you have to be prepared going in for these 2 weeks that this is going to be a grinded out sort of thing.
These guys must have crazy recovery programs, to recover their strength and their electrolytes and not cramp up and not be sore from all that exertion.
The cramping up is a very good point because frequently, tennis is a hot weather sport. I don't think it's hot in London, but it is high 70s, low 80s, and you're going to lose a lot of your electrolytes doing that. There's a method for doing that. Of course, that's the power drinks that they have.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them, this is going to sound awfully rough, but a lot of them take ice baths. And
gosh.
They are into ice, folks. And they sit in there for me, it would be about 10 seconds.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, that's rough. That is rough.
We had some history yesterday in Wimbledon. Ned, fill us in on that.
Yeah, you're talking about the young lady from Czechoslovakia.
Yeah.
Markita Vondrousova is how she
Easy
says
for
her
you
name.
to say.
She's non-ranked, and came on and won and beat another historic tennis player, Ons Jabeur, who is the highest, and get this, the highest ranked ever Arab tennis player, male or female.
Oh, wow.
And this is the second time she's played at Wimbledon for the championship, and the second time she's lost. Very frustrated.
Well, that's that mental thing you're talking about.
It is. It's exactly right. It's your focal point on how you play, what you have to do, sizing up your opponent, trying to wear your opponent down mentally, and it all figures into the mix.
So is this the first time an unranked
Correct.
player won Wimbledon ever? Male or female?
I can't say that, but I think it's maybe the first unranked female ever to win, I think.
That is an accomplishment.
Ned, what is it about, to you, what is it about Wimbledon that makes it so special that we stop our mornings on Saturdays and Sundays to watch this championship?
History. It's number one, it's the oldest of all the tennis tournaments. It is the only grass court major tournament that's played. And indeed, it just has that historic value to it. Wimbledon is associated with championship tennis. That's where it always has been played, back into the 1800s. The United States Open is relatively new. The French Open, it's old, but it's and also the only one played on clay courts. It has a history to it as well. But Wimbledon is really the hallmark of what you have in this sport. Every sport seems to have its key event as such, the one in which the public is aware of what happens and so forth and so on. Well, Wimbledon is it for tennis.
You mentioned earlier, you mentioned last week, we were talking about it, Wimbledon, and, the courts are just immaculate when the opening rounds are played. And now you see where all these bare spots have been worn in from the players running back and forth. And we've seen it that Alcaraz slipped and fell a little bit ago, and kind of scary moment. I think Djokovic stopped and watched and thought maybe that he might not actually get up from it, but he did.
He's 23 years old. He's going to get up from it.
But but any of us take a fall like that on a court, they're calling an ambulance, but it's amazing how much the court itself plays into the ability to win the championship.
Oh, absolutely.
It's part of the war of attrition.
Yeah.
It is in so many other sports as well, too, but I don't think the average fan realizes what it takes to play this sport. It is not a whoosh sport at all. It's very difficult.
No, it's an amazing game.
Yeah.
I played tennis quite a while I was in high school. I played, just for fun. My brother was a big tennis player, and I had a good friend that was a big tennis player, played on the Glendale tennis team, and we'd go out. We knew where the switches were at with most courts, so we'd turn them on and go ahead and play at night, and just enjoyed playing tennis. I was not nearly as good as anybody I played with, so I was always the doormat.
Yeah, that's me. I even made an attempt as an overweight, slow adult. I tried to play tennis with some people that had played tennis in high school and even college, and they taught me some things like I'm not a tennis player.
Josh, do you watch any Wimbledon?
I will turn it on and just let it play, and I'll do other things in the room because there's something very soothing about the sound of the tennis ball being volleyed back and forth and how calm and professional everything is. The maintenance of the British, comes into play for me. They're very astute. They're very quiet. They're very polite, I guess, is the thing. So, yeah, I enjoy it that way. I've never been a huge tennis fan, but what I love about tennis I can remember all of these rivalries, even though I've never been a huge tennis fan, like Connors and McEnroe and Sampras and Agassi, and there's always it seems like there's always a couple of players that stand out above everybody else because it was Djokovic and Nadal, right? And then you had Andy Roddick in there.
Roger Federer
and Roger Federer. There's always a couple of guys that's who you want to see in those championships. Are the two big guys, so you see this rivalry and you get great tennis that way too.
This is related to tennis, but it's not. The current niche sport in this country is pickleball.
Pickleball, yeah.
New York Times last week did an article on how popular pickleball is, especially in Florida, because a lot of older people play the game, and surprisingly it is physically demanding, not like tennis is, but it has a pretty good physical rhythm to it. Anyway,
I know a lot of people who have already gotten hurt playing pickleball.
Back injuries,
like blowing out their knees and stuff. Because pickleball is basically ping pong with giant paddles.
And a wiffle ball.
And
it's a hard plastic wiffle ball. All right.
Yeah.
So the gist of this story was that popular as pickleball is, and down in Florida, they're all over, especially in the communities where folks are retired or assisted living or whatever. It's particularly popular down there. Well, it has engendered complaints. The complaints have been noise. Hey, wait a minute, people not shouting. No, nothing to do with human beings. It's the sound of the ball hitting the racket. When you multiply that 100 times, and you've got people all over these courts, that's back. And the description was, it sounds very much like somebody popping 2 bowls of popcorn in the kitchen. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
And it can be very disturbing.
That's hilarious.
You're listening to Ned Talk, your local live sports talk show right here on 104.7 The Cave. Joe Westen, Ned Reynolds, Josh Roberts. We're getting our own sets of pickleball courts here in Springfield.
There are many of them here.
Yeah, there's some that's some commercial ones that are going in. So
I don't know about that. Where are they?
They're going to be over by Bass Pro.
Really?
Yeah, there's a whole little complex being built over there, my understanding. So
there are many, of course, public pickleball courts around, many private ones. Cooper Tennis has pickleball courts now, but there are also public ones with the Springfield Park system.
Are they – because I know that initially people were just playing pickleball on a regular tennis court. Is it – I assume it's a smaller court.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's smaller in width and in length. There isn't a whole lot of running in pickleball, but there is quite a bit of lateral movement, and especially if you play singles in pickleball, then there's quite a bit of lateral movement. But in terms of running back and forth like these tennis guys do, no, the court is smaller, and the speed of the ball is compromised quite a bit because of the way they play it, and because it is a wiffle ball that you hit. But that wiffle ball makes a sound when it hits that paddle, and it's a rather audible sound. It's a good game, though.
We talk about this during the spring when the Masters happens, about how great the marketing is, because I think just like the Masters, Wimbledon has this kind of perception that if you win Wimbledon or you win the Masters, you're the best at whatever sport that is, golf or tennis. But that's not necessarily true.
No, it is not. And you're right, it does leave that misperception. But that's the case, I think, Joe, with any championship that you run into. Now, when you have a long season in team sports, usually it's their best one, but not always because of the playoff. Look at Philadelphia last year in the World Series. They shouldn't have been there, but they were because of the way things all worked out. But in this regard, yes, the best player in the world can emerge, but doesn't always. It's the nature of any sports. These people are so good at what they do that anybody can emerge at any time, and the women's champion yesterday, I think, is symbolic of that.
Who won in the doubles?
Haven't seen the doubles. Don't know.
Mixed doubles? Don't know either one of those? It's always interesting to see those. I used to follow Wimbledon a lot closer when I was younger, but I could say that about almost any sport. And they were just saying that the Australian Open opens next week. So I mean, these guys.
Oh no, that's not until January.
Not the Australian Open.
Yeah, Australian Open.
I thought that was late summer.
No. The next one on this bracket here is U.S. Open in September.
Oh, okay.
And that's at New York. No, the Australian Open is in mid to late January, down under, in the heat of the summer, and that's what it is down there.
Djokovic has a 1-0 lead in the fifth and final deciding set for this match. We'll try to keep you posted as we sit here through the hour. I know some people are probably out there wondering what's going on in Wimbledon. But it's hard. If I wasn't sitting here, we have a TV in the studio. I don't know that I would sit and dedicate all. They're into the fifth hour or headed towards the fifth hour of this match. I don't know if I could dedicate that much time to watching it. But it especially is almost, it as I said earlier, the way that you could look at it at one moment and think, well, this guy's going to win it easy. And then you come back and go, well, no, that guy's going to win it easy. And now it's down to Djokovic having to win 5 and Alcaraz having to win 6 to win this thing.
Yeah.
Can't tell, guys. It's whoever is mentally the strongest.
Yep.
And that person will come away with a win.
I've always been very impressed with the accuracy that these guys can hit this tennis ball, too.
Yeah.
Like down a line, or you think it's going to be a lob that's easy for him to crush back over, and then it barely hits it. I mean, they are masters of putting that ball on a dime.
Josh, and it took me a long time to learn that, because I think the novice who goes out and plays tennis is accustomed to hitting it like a baseball.
Yeah.
Come around and swat it and hit as hard, and that's exactly what you do not do.
No, I learned that.
You watch the way these guys swing now. They go what's known in tennis as high to low.
Right.
Or low to high, and mostly it's low to high. You come and you take a whipping type motion at it and put the spin on it.
Yeah, you're creating spin. Yeah, I learned that the first couple of times I tried to play tennis, I hit the ball out of the tennis court.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Just trying to return it. I'm like, oh, I'm not supposed to hit it that hard.
I had a kid who played for me in baseball, and he took tennis lessons. And I asked his mother nicely, said, "Can you lay off the tennis lessons for just a little bit while he's playing baseball, because it was messing up his swing."
He was doing the swinging bunt.
He was doing exactly what Ned was talking about, and it took me a minute to figure out what was going on with his swing. I could tell there was something wrong with it, and then I was like, "Oh, well, that's it. If he's playing tennis, that's the reason." I also saw the same thing with kids that took golf lessons,
right.
That they had a similar issue with their swing, because they're all three very different from each other.
Well,
very
I played
different.
softball with a guy who.
That's a different swing too.
But he hated playing softball with us because he was such an avid golfer, and he's like, it screws up my golf swing every time I play softball. I'm like, just swing it like a golf club then. That's what Ken Griffey Jr. kind of did with baseball.
The other big sporting event that has happened this last week is the All-Star Game. Ned, you'll be ashamed of me. I did not watch a second of it.
The Home Run Derby?
Didn't watch Home Run Derby, didn't watch the All-Star Game.
Well, you were in the majority.
Yeah.
Because the TV ratings for both were the lowest ever. Now, when you say that, oh my God, you mean nobody was watching? No, that's not the case. The All-Star Game went from 7.5 million to 7 million. Well, it's a drop of 500, not 500 million, but 500,000.
Yeah.
And the percentage is 11%, somewhere around there. But it's what Major League Baseball did not want to see. And the Home Run Derby the night before went from maybe 6,400,000 to 6,100,000. So it's minuscule in terms of the numbers, but they are drops each time, and you don't want that to happen. Well, what do you attribute that to? Well, who knows? It could be whatever's happening in your community. Of course, those events are seen nationwide, and those are nationwide ratings that they take. But there's so many variables that come into it. It's when it goes down by about 1 million viewers. That's when you really start to panic. Still, you don't want ratings that are dropping.
I think the Home Run Derby, they're still fiddling with that thing, trying to make it work, and it's 3 hours. That's just too long. But I think they're running into the same problem that the NBA runs into with the dunk competition, is you don't get the names who are wanting to do it anymore, because a lot of guys, it messes up their swing, and they don't want to have that on them as they go into the second half.
To that end, they have raised the prize that goes to the winner, $1 million. So therefore, that $1 million promise and beckoning call does affect some of the players. Hey, wait a minute, I'm playing for $1 million. However, you did hit it right on the nose. The swing is totally different. Your rhythm is totally different, because you have one ball after another after another coming at you, and you're giving it your all to hit it out of the ballpark, that takes a lot out of you, a whole lot out of you. And I think the Rodriguez kid from the Seattle Mariners, who is a terrific ball player, he had 41 home runs, 41 in the first session. The first
wow.
The second round, I think he had 18 or something like that.
He wore himself out.
He did. Didn't know how to pace himself.
So Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is who won it.
Uh-huh.
And didn't they say that he total hit over 75 home runs?
Oh, I think he was in the 90s.
It may have been 70. Well, anyway, that's a lot.
Gets boring after a while.
It does.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think it's cool.
I
think it's a cool event, but you know what? This is going to date us all. I loved the old TV show that was the Home Run Derby. And they would have Harmon Killebrew and Hank Aaron, and all the big names were on it because they were getting paid an extra paycheck.
It was, and the paycheck was, for them back then at that time,
significant.
Very good. But you also remember that Home Run Derby was a half hour long.
Yeah.
It was edited. It was on film.
Yep.
And you cut it down. I loved it because, well, Hank, how did you hit? Well, I hit the ball very well today. The pitcher was right there, and he was throwing all my pitches. All the answers were the same.
Yeah.
And they were scripted. That bothered.
But I love that. I love the fact that they would go hit, and then they'd sit down and talk to the guy. You know, I thought that was cool. Maybe they need to do that instead.
Yeah, I don't think it's done in quite the same way, though.
1-1 in the fifth set right now between Djokovic and Alcaraz. When we come back, what's that I smell? A fire sale. We'll talk about the Cardinals.
Yep.
You're listening to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, part of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network. Back to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, a proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network.
And you're home for Wimbledon updates. Alcaraz is up 2-1 in the fifth set. Right now, we're watching it on the TV, in the studio, as it happens. This is live radio, folks.
Awesome.
This is just amazing. Anyway, Joe Westen, Ned Reynolds, Josh Roberts. We have a little group text that we're all on together, which nobody really responds to. I just send stuff, and it all just sits there silently.
That's not true.
No, you do. Yeah. Well, Josh is good. Josh is very good about it.
I try.
Mike is occasionally in. Jake.
Yeah. No, Jake.
I don't know what Jake puts in there when he does. Alec never.
Nonsensical.
And Ned never. Either doesn't respond.
Ned can't be bothered.
Mazalak, I guess, came out this week and said the Cardinals were being selective sellers. I think it's the best way to put it. Right? Is that how you read that?
I read it in a number of contexts. Number one, it was kind of general manager, although he is the president, not the general manager, but of hierarchy speak. You've heard of coaches speak. Well, this is front office speak. That's what it was for the most part. Well, we might do this or we might do that and so forth and so on. We're not going to raise the white flag, which told me right then that they do not plan on hearing any comments or any offers for Mr. Arenado or Mr. Goldschmidt or Mr. Walker. And I'm told maybe the fourth untouchable in the group is Newt Barr, who's a pretty good player. He's coming on doing those things for himself. But Arenado, and I've seen all the stories about Arenado and Goldschmidt and so forth and so on. That's nonsense. They're not going to trade them. They're the core of the team, I don't think you can call the Cardinals rebuilding next year. They're going to try to retool and reload. But does that involve making some trades? Yeah, they may make some down the line here. I would certainly hope that they would. The team needs pitching. There isn't any question. If they can get a top-level pitcher for some of the individuals, like a Nolan Gorman and maybe an Tommy Edman, some of those people, yeah, they may make deals for them. But it is going to be selective. I don't think they'll go all out and sell the entire franchise. No, that's not going to happen.
Well, let me ask you this, though, Ned. It's not working right now at this very moment. You've had over half a season to look at the Cardinals, and Alec last week said they are what they are. I mean, do you think maybe it's time to dismantle? Because doing little things right now is not going to help.
maybe just one of those cyclical circumstances that hit every team. You've got to keep in mind now the Cardinals have had 2 decades, 20 or more years, where they've been a viable championship level, not always a championship, haven't been to the World Series since 2013. 2011 is the last time they won. And that's almost unprecedented for a team sport to have been at that level for so long. The Atlanta Braves can say they have, but the Cardinals have just not had a string of any bad luck, so to speak. Well, it may be hitting them now. It may be just one of those cyclical things that do arrive for every team. And really, when you think about it, they're not out of the woods yet here, not out of championship contention. I really have to think they'd have to go through almost an unprecedented winning streak, but they're 14 games under 500 with 70 to play. That's a big margin to have to overcome. And they're 12.5 games out of first place with 70 to play. That's also a big margin, especially considering that there are other teams in front of you. Well, can they do that? They have not shown signs of being able to do it, but maybe that string of bad luck is going to run out. I think they've started the second half in kind of a typical Cardinals way, win one, lose one. They can't tread water. They've got to win and win every time out. Whether or not that can be done, I don't know. I just don't know. As far as the bulk of the team is concerned, I do think they have some changes. We all know that. They all do need pitching help. Adam Wainwright, as much as everybody loves him, he just simply has not proven himself this year and probably does not need to be in the starting rotation, although they may do that. It's hard to say how these people think. It's a most unusual run organization, and they don't allow themselves to be grilled, so to speak, by the media. I noticed that Mr. Mosaic the other day granted an interview. Granted an interview?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. This is a public entity, and you're dealing with the public, and yet you're allowing this. You need to be forthcoming with everything you do because you're relying on the public to support you.
We've heard the names Arenado and Goldschmidt floated. You say that you don't think either one of them will be traded, that they're cornerstones and they want to keep those places in place. But let's just say for a second that somebody rolls up and says, we want one of them. What do we have to give up to get them? What sort of things do you think the Cardinals should ask for?
A top pitcher, absolutely a top-level pitcher. And if that team that made that offer comes up with their star, maybe their ace, who may have a number of years remaining on his contract. There's the difference between Goldschmidt and something. Goldschmidt is a free agent after next year, 2024. If the Cardinals happen to be in the same boat next year, yes, I can see him being traded, but not this year. He's a fine player. I don't know what kind of a leader he is. I've heard reports that he's not that much of a leader, but then again, those are simply reports that you can't rely on. Arenado is in a situation now where it's totally up to him. He can okay a trade or he can deny that trade. And he has said he is committed to St. Louis, so I'm going to have to take him at face value and see where he stands. They are fine players. They're all-star players. Jordan Walker is a star in the making right here. He made a catch in yesterday's game that was simply outstanding. He's learning his craft very well. He's 21 years old, has physical skills. He can do a lot of things. He's very smart. He's also another of the untouchables. So we'll see how things work out, but I would be surprised if they are in this boat next year that they have this year. And that's not to say they can't escape this, but it's from 2023, but it's going to be awfully difficult to do.
Cardinals have always been, in my estimation as a team, they've always been very good at having that homegrown centerpiece, the guy that comes out of the organization and is their guy. Albert Pujols, Stan Musial, Lou Brock, those sort of guys that have been, you think of them as being Cardinals. Arenado and Goldschmidt don't have that feeling to them. I don't, at least as being an outsider, look at them and go, those guys are Cardinals.
No, they weren't developed within the system. That is true. Neither was McGuire, Big Mac. He wasn't either. He came over in a trade. There are others who have been dealt for and come on and succeeded with the Cardinals. But, yeah, they've made a history out of doing the right thing with key players from their organization. And that brings up the question, are those key players here now? Now, there may be one or two. I really like this kid, Tink Hentz, who's going to be pitching for them. He'll pitch. He pitched last night, and he will pitch sometime again this week. And he's not very big, 5'10", but a kid who can really throw. And he's a youngster. Victor Scott from West Virginia University is very fast. These guys have some abilities. But is the core of another team, is your star in the making, like Jordan Walker and Mason Wynn? I don't see them down here, no.
Josh, what do you think? I mean, you've watched the Cardinals and the Cubs kind of fall back and forth all through the season. The Cardinals now solidly in that last place spot. What are your thoughts on what you're seeing out of the big team this year?
Well, as a Cubs fan, I hope the Cardinals don't do anything different. But as a baseball fan, I feel like, because I read the beginning of that article, and I felt like Mozeliak was saying, please keep coming to the games and buying tickets, but don't look at what my other hand is doing as I get rid of all these players that you love. I almost think that they could easily, it could go either way. And I understand what Ned is saying. He doesn't think that these core players will be dealt, but I think they could just as easily say, let's blow it all up and rebuild, because they're obviously not getting the result that they want. They're not getting the result they need. It doesn't look like it's going to get any better. And so they are just going to continue to sink in that division unless the only thing they got going for them is that every team in that division is pretty bad. And so they're not totally out of it yet. They're the worst of a bad division. And it's, most teams would probably have their fire sale at this point and build for the future. But this is one thing that I've talked about with you guys before. The Cardinals organization has always, and maybe this is just because of the coverage that we get here in this area, but the Cardinals organization has always been, to me, they hold on to players out of loyalty longer than they should. And maybe all teams do that, and I just don't see it because I don't see all the coverage. But that's what it seems like to me. And now you're in a situation where it's, like you said, these are not the homegrown players that the organization even feels like they owe that loyalty to. So I could easily see them dealing Arenado and Goldschmidt and trying to get, like you're saying, star pitching to rebuild for the next season.
When we come back, we'll continue this conversation, talk about our event that's happening Tuesday night. Right now it's 3-2 in the fifth set. Alcaraz, Djokovic.
You're listening to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, part of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network. Back to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, a proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network.
Commercial break in Wimbledon right now. I think it's 4-3. Alcaraz over Djokovic in the fifth set decider. Pretty exciting stuff going on. We're talking about it, talking about sports. We were talking about the Cardinals, but before we get back into that conversation a little bit, because I think there's a couple of things I'd like to get Ned's opinion on, is that we have an event Tuesday night. It is our Chiefs Happy Hour. They're doing the strawberries and cream right now, by the way. They won't be doing
Chiefs
that.
are?
No, at Wimbledon. We won't be doing that at our event. I was just seeing that on TV because that's one of the big deals with the Wimbledon there. It's one of the traditions.
That's the king, right?
Yeah. That's not the king. Oh, is that the king of Spain?
Spain, yeah.
Okay. Different king, different country. Anyway, but we do have an event going on Tuesday night. It's our Chiefs Happy Hour. Mitch Oltis, Dana Hughes, they'll be here along with our own Mike the intern. I would say Ned Reynolds. Ned will not be there. He'll be doing the baseball game for the Springfield Cardinals.
Cardinals and the Arkansas Travelers.
And so Ned will not be there. But can we mention who will be there?
Let's just say a former one of our panel who has been there in the past will try to make another appearance.
we hope that he'll be there. So, but Mike will be there. I'll be there. I think Alec is going to join us, and Jake will be there too. So it'll be a great time. Even though Ned's not going to be, it's really hard for me to not have you there because you do such a great job with that.
That's very nice of you to say.
You do. You do a fantastic job.
I've been to every one of them so far, and it's been. We started out we have this as a big nighttime event now. It started out as a luncheon.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We had it over at the Knights of Columbus on Grand Street. That was first one. And then it's going on from there, and now it's going into the nighttime event, and it's a very good one.
Okay, let me be perfectly honest here. When we had to do the first one, I was like, "Ugh, I don't really want to do this. I don't really want to go. I have no idea what it's going to be like." And now I can't wait for them. I enjoy them so much. Mitch does a fantastic job with this. I didn't make it last year. I know you guys said Danon does a great job too. I'm very excited to go this year. And again, it's happening Tuesday night. Tickets are on sale right now at 1047thecave.com. You could walk up, possibly, but I know tickets have been selling really, really well.
And it's not a huge venue.
No, it's not.
So
it's the Dive on Patton downtown. So I wouldn't risk it. If you're thinking about going, don't sleep on it. Get your tickets. It is Tuesday night. All the information's online at 1047thecave.com. Joe Westen, Ned Reynolds, Josh Roberts with us. We were talking about the Cardinals. I guess a couple of things I wanted to touch on with you, Ned, before we move off the Cardinals is one, you are the broadcaster, one of the broadcasters down here for the Springfield Cardinals. Mm-hmm. What's the farm system look like?
We talked a little bit about their makeup right now. They're a good team. They're playing very well as a team. Won their game in Wichita last night, 10-2, and they are now one game under 500. That's for the whole season. In the second half, they are a little bit above 500, and that's one of the beauties in minor league baseball about the way the season morphs, because it's played in halves, and the first half and second half champion play each other in the playoffs, and then the other division has the same circumstance, and that's where the championship comes through. Well, what happens if it's the same winner for both halves? Well, then you take the best second half record for the season. That's why it's important. And then you have a playoff from there. I like the Springfield Cardinals team, like the way they're playing. Are they a championship team? That I don't know. That we'll find out as the second half goes on. But the season in the Texas League doesn't end until the second week in September. So there's a long way to go, and these guys are playing very well.
Alcaraz is up 5-3, one match away from winning, one game away from winning. This is the appropriate term.
I think he's going to win it. Alcaraz is a very good player, and in all honesty, Djokovic, who is among the all-time greats and is a future Hall of Famer, is out of gas. He's 36 years old, and it's beginning to catch up with him. It does. Caught up with Roger Federer this year. He's now almost totally retired, if he isn't completely retired, and he's had to accept that fact. It just is difficult to play, difficult to get that. I don't know how to describe it. That's certain. Your motivation is there. The soul is willing, but the body is not.
And sometimes the soul's not willing. Sometimes you're just you see that a lot with players who go into whatever training camp it is that they go for a couple of days, and they're like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore.
It happens.
Yeah,
sure.
It happens frequently. I guess what I was getting to when we're going back to the Cardinals is, do you see the nuts and bolts or pieces down here in Springfield right now that maybe next year or a couple of years away, they'll be major contributors to the Big Birds?
In one or two cases, yes, I do. But in the total team context, and of course, it's Double-A. This is the cutting edge. If you make it here and go to Triple-A, you have a chance. If you don't make it in Double-A, you're not going anywhere. It's simple as that. Do I see that? I do in a couple of cases, but I can't. I'm not going to jinx the individuals by telling you who falls into that category. But saw it last year with Mason Wynn and Jordan Walker. In terms of that level of ability, no. But in terms of ability playing at a higher level, yeah, I see it with several.
5-4 now in the fifth set. Alcaraz over Djokovic. Alcaraz serving for the championship. What's their AAA team? What's Memphis look like?
Memphis is about the same as Springfield. They do have some players. In fact, most of their team was down here. But they've gone on now to AAA level. Not all of them. Guy I'd really like to see make it, and he would have a tough time making it. Second base is Kramer Robertson. He was down here. He was here for a couple of years. He's now been in Memphis for a couple of years. But his mom, of course, is the head basketball coach at LSU and has won a national championship, Kim Mulkey. And Kramer's a good kid. He was an All-America at LSU, but he's one of those who falls into that category of maybe from a finite difference, whatever it happens to be, of not being able to get to the big time. Has played, but only on a sparing basis.
Josh was kind enough during the commercial break to point out that Lou Brock played for the Cubs for a while.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry that I misrepresented that earlier,
okay.
But you want to share your Lou Brock story?
Oh, we were talking off the air about how that era of baseball players are so accommodating to their fans. I was in St. Louis visiting my brother, and there was a Home Depot grand opening, and Lou Brock was signing autographs there. So my brother at the time, my nephews were 5 and 7 respectively. So we stood in line for about an hour because the line was enormous because, everybody loves Lou Brock in St. Louis, understandably so. And we get up there. We didn't bring anything to sign or anything. We just wanted to say hi and introduce my nephews to him. And he was like, "What? You didn't bring anything for me to sign?" "Oh, well, hang on a second." And he reaches under the table and he pulls out 2 8x10s and he signs them to my nephews. And he looks at my older nephew, Joey, who is a pretty good-sized 7-year-old. He's like, You're a pretty big kid. I mean, do you like baseball?" He's like, "Yeah, I like baseball." He's like, "All right, well, you play baseball. You got the size for it." So he was just so nice, so accommodating. And I love stories like that. And baseball is a sport where that era of player, I've never heard a bad story about any of them. They're all so accommodating to their fan base and so appreciative of what they have. So it's always good to hear those stories.
15-15 in the what could be the decider right now. 5-4 in the fifth set. Alcaraz over Djokovic. We're watching Wimbledon and we're talking sports. When we come back, we'll tell you what we'll watch this afternoon.
You're listening to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, part of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network. Back to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, a proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network.
If you love sports, if you just love it, period, watching this has been real thrilling this morning as you watch Alcaraz, maybe sensing a little bit of changing of the guard here. He's 23 years old. Djokovic, 36 years old. Ned pointed out because Ned's a big tennis fan, pointed out that Djokovic was going for his 6th consecutive Wimbledon title. Josh summed it up when he said, to be the best, you got to beat the best, and that is what has happened today. Carlos Alcaraz is your Wimbledon championship, and he went up in the stands and hugged his teammates and the guys that have helped him get to this point. So it has been a very thrilling Wimbledon final.
Two of the best, if not two, maybe the two best in the world playing each other. Very, very well played.
And you just want to see those guys going at each other, and it was a very long match, and it was very thrilling today. That's why I love sports.
One of the things you have to remember, too, guys, is that tennis. One of the features of tennis is the fact that they play on different surfaces.
Oh yeah.
The French Open is on clay. Wimbledon is on grass. The Australian Open is hard court, and the U.S. Open in New York is hard court. Hard court tennis a little bit different. Game is a whole lot faster.
Very exciting. They're already putting his name up there at Wimbledon as a champion for this year, and just very exciting to see. So,
and he's going to get a cool plate.
Yeah, and he's
a lot of money too.
And a lot of money.
He'll serve some nachos on those later on in the day.
That's a nacho plate for sure.
Now, I just nachos would seem like the thing that you would serve on a plate like that.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I said
agree.
that. I just don't want anybody to read anything into that. Just no. Maybe ham and eggs or something like that on it. So what are you going to watch on TV today, Ned, now that Wimbledon's over?
Well, have some chores to do around the house. Have to do them first, and then maybe watch a little bit of the Cardinals game. Cardinals and the Washington Nationals, rubber game of their 3-game series.
Yeah, it's important. They always say win those series. So they need to get out and they need to win the series today.
You might remember that the Cardinals started the season by losing the first game of 11 consecutive series openers.
Ooh.
That was, I believe, the record is 13, if I'm not mistaken.
And Josh, what about you? What are you going to watch?
I have no idea. We'll just see what's on.
Well, that sounds like a plan.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I tried to watch baseball the other day and couldn't.
I tried to watch the All-Star game the other night, and I didn't realize that channel was off the air on DirecTV.
Yep.
Come on, guys.
Get with it.
Let's get this program together. What do we need to do to make all this happen besides a lot of cash?
Pay the money. That's it.
Yeah.
There is nothing else to do.
Pay the money. Nothing else to do. What's the next big sporting event on the horizon?
Well, in tennis, it'll be the U.S. Open coming up at the latter part of August and early September. In terms of the baseball, well, the trade deadline is going to be August the 1st, July 31st, August the 1st, and next Sunday, 1 week from today. 1 week from today, Kansas City Chiefs open their training camp.
Oh, my gosh.
And all of the veterans and the rookies and everybody will be there.
Well, and college football starts the first weekend of September.
Actually, the last weekend in August.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Last weekend of August.
There is.
It's just around the corner.
There is a major game. There are very few. There are some games that they're widely scattered, but the major game involves the Irish. Notre Dame is playing Navy, first game of the year, and they play it in Dublin.
Oh, that's right. They're going overseas.
Going to Ireland to play the first game. It was originally scheduled for 2 years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago. Then COVIDed out, if you can make a past tense of a non-verb like that.
Well, you did a good job
just
of
did
it.
man.
You did extremely well. You handled
you.
that perfectly.
Changing the vernacular as we go.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that football is just around the corner. So that, again, goes back into what we talked about earlier, that our Chiefs Happy Hour is Tuesday night. It will be with Mitch Holtis, Dane Hughes. They are the voices of the Kansas City Chiefs. The Dive on Patton, downtown in Springfield. All the information right on our website at 1047thecave.com. That's the place to purchase tickets. Ned, I will not see you Tuesday, but I will see you next Sunday.
Next Sunday.
And Josh, will you be here next Sunday?
Yes.
Okay, Josh, mentally doing his calendar. Want to say thanks to Corbin Campbell, Brian Tyndall, Mike the Intern, Nick Fury. We'll see you guys next Sunday. Download us, please, as a podcast.